This week, I got to meet the person who absolutely changed the course of my life. And then, life dared me to show up as the person I had become. Welcome to Star Potential, the podcast where we explore authenticity, self-discovery, and what it truly means to live as your highest self. I'm Julie Jo Hughes, and today we're diving into a story about meeting a hero, reclaiming lost parts of ourselves, and what radical responsibility looks like in real life. Let's get into it. Welcome to Star Potential, a podcast where we explore the meaning of our existence while having a few laughs and sometimes tears through stories from the road of life. I'm your host, Julie Jo Hughes. As a stage performer, my life is quite literally about song and dance. I believe that life here on Earth is a playground for discovery, not a contest to be won. We ask questions together like, how do I evolve my consciousness? And how do you sing a passionate ballad when there's an old guy in the front row with his balls showing? True story. Stick around for these fun conversations. I met my spiritual hero this week, Aaron Abke, the man whose work flipped my life upside down 2 years ago, whose teachings peeled back the layers I didn't even know I was hiding behind. Meeting him felt like standing in the presence of a star, a celebrity. But the real lesson didn't happen at the book signing. It happened a couple days later, in a quiet, uncomfortable moment where I had to choose, abandon myself again, or honor every piece of who I truly am. In this episode, I want to take you through both the awe of that encounter and the moment that tested my own growth. A moment where reclaiming a lost part of myself became real, messy, and beautiful all at once. This is what radical responsibility looks like when it shows up in your life. Not as an idea, but as a living, breathing practice. So meeting my hero was my catalyst this week, and what happened afterwards was the embodiment of putting those lessons into real practice. Let's dive in a little bit here. So in short, I'll just give you a brief retelling of meeting Aaron. I went to LA for his very first ever book signing. His first book was just released. Now, 2 years ago, I went through such a huge shift, as we've talked about on this podcast, but the 7 months being deep in those courses that I took with Aaron really shaped a lot of the work I do today and changed the trajectory of where I was headed in my current visions for my purpose and how I want to serve others and how I show up in my daily life. Now, because of his teachings, I was trying not to give meeting him too much weight, too much importance. But of course, I'm listening to his book on Audible. I'm listening to him in my ear all the way during my 2-hour drive to LA when he's telling me things like, don't give things too much importance. When you meet someone who means a big deal to you, don't make it about yourself. Treat everyone with the same love and respect. Listen more than you speak. Give to others. Giving and receiving go hand in hand. These are all the lessons I'm being reminded of on the way there. And I told myself not to fangirl when I saw him, but my heart started pounding, and it was just such a huge moment. I walked into the bookstore about 50 minutes before it was actually scheduled to start, and I was just going to ask the people that worked there if they could show me where a restroom was, when there he was, in real life, in the flesh, shining like a bright star, and my heart was pounding. And he introduced himself to me, and I said, yes, I know who you are. I'm one of your students. I'm a 4DU grad. And we're talking back and forth, but he's signing these books. And in a nutshell, I had envisioned if I got the chance to tell him how much his teachings had changed my life, I was trying to figure out what I would say. And I couldn't really come up with it, and I just trusted that it would be there. The words would be there for me in the moment. They weren't. And it didn't help that he wasn't actually ready to meet people yet. Now, he was being very gracious, but he was trying to sign like 50 books at the time. And I misunderstood. I thought I was in a line to go ahead and meet him. And so I started spilling over myself about how he had changed my life and how I had lost my voice. And then I wanted to do something meaningful with my voice. But I'm trying not to make this story all about me. It's really about how grateful I am for his teachings. And instead, it just felt like I was bothering him. And then the guy that worked there said something like, yeah, we're going to get your books in a few minutes. At which point I finally realized, I am so sorry. Are you just trying to sign books right now and I'm interrupting you? And he was very gracious. But yeah, that's what I was doing. So I was embarrassed. It basically took this big excitement and momentum that I had built up on the way there, and it came crashing down. And now I just felt kind of weird. Now, what that did was it kind of reset my scale, so to speak. And I began talking with other people that were there out in the courtyard outside. And as it would turn out, Aaron came to join us at our table and talked with us for about 30 minutes before his book presentation actually began. It was super cool. I just got to hang out. I practiced his lessons of listening more than I spoke. I just listened to him talk and tried to just be really present in the moment of sharing a 4-foot space with my teacher. And as I sat there in the presence of it, I became more and more grounded. My heart opened up, and it was no longer about me meeting my hero. It was about being there, present with others who are like-minded and doing the same kinds of work in the world, learning the same kinds of lessons. So that was kind of the first part. Now, during the Q&A portion, someone asked a question about integrating healing when we have parts of ourselves that still feel a little bit like we were a victim in some way. And how do we reconcile those feelings? Do we go through some kind of visualization and rewrite the story in our mind and pretend that the situation went differently? And so that was the nature of the question that the person was asking. And Aaron gave this very thoughtful answer in the form of dialogue. He asked a few questions back and forth, but the teaching was essentially about when we are healing these parts of ourselves, it's not about changing or controlling the other person. It is always about you. It's always about your experience. Your life, your reality is your experience of whatever you're going through. And so even when other people are involved, which they almost always are, it's not about them. And when we talk about this idea of radical responsibility, it's about reclaiming the parts of ourselves that at some point we abandoned in order to receive love from that person or to keep us safe with that person. Whatever we perceived was going to help us receive love from that person often means that we abandoned some piece of ourselves that we deemed unlovable in the case of a situation where we felt sort of like a victim, okay? And so when we uncover these things, it's not about going back and telling that person, you really wronged me when you did this, and I have since learned that I abandoned this part of myself. It has nothing to do with that. But it's all about going forward. Can you reclaim that part of yourself that you once abandoned to get love? And when you do that, you take back your sovereignty. It comes back to your hands, and you're not a victim of anyone or anything. So I thought about this a lot on the way home. And a couple nights later, I got to put this into practice. So here's my real life example. I had just finished a show with my band, and we all wear these captain's hats because we're a yacht rock tribute band, right? Often, many of our fans come wearing these captain's hats. There was a group of men that came up to me afterwards and they were complimenting me and things. And I've really been working to be really present with people after my shows, not just saying thank you, but also asking about them and let's make it a conversation. So as I'm being present with these people and opening myself up and being human with them, another friend of theirs comes over, and to make a long story short, he asks me if I would autograph his hat, to which I said, of course. I went back to my own dressing room, got a Sharpie so that I could sign it for him, and I'm asking him who I should make it to. And in the process of signing this hat, he starts describing to me these kind of crude and vulgar things that he's planning to do with the hat while thinking of me later. Now, without going into too much details from my past, I will just say this has been a bit of a wound pattern for me of not honoring and respecting myself always in exchange for keeping the peace, in exchange for not wanting to make someone else feel uncomfortable. The old me would just uncomfortably laugh and pretend like that's all fine and not let it show on my face that I'm uncomfortable or I'm feeling the need to leave the situation. However, the new me, especially reflecting upon this lesson this week about reclaiming parts of ourselves that we had once abandoned in order to get love, I just took a deep breath and in that moment just sort of asked my heart, what would love do right now? And I didn't feel the need to call him out. I didn't feel the need to make him feel uncomfortable. But what I did do was honor the fact that I felt like I wanted to leave the situation, and I didn't need to pretend that I felt good and wanted to laugh with them about this thing he said he was going to do. And so I took a deep breath and with complete compassion for myself and without judgment of him, because this wasn't about him, right? I just said, I'm going to be going now. You guys all have a great evening. And as I'm walking away, they're kind of calling something, sorry, he's out of control. And I just smiled and waved. It wasn't about him. It was about me. And as I got to my car, I realized that I had stepped into a different version of myself. One who doesn't place blame on others, but also honors and respects herself, knowing that we can hold space and compassion for meeting others exactly where they are without judgment. But also, we don't have to sacrifice where we feel safe or we feel comfortable. So in that moment, I restored a part of myself that way back, probably even pre-teen years, I had several times repeatedly abandoned that voice inside that said, this doesn't feel quite comfortable. I broke the pattern of pushing that voice down and saying, we don't want to make this uncomfortable for someone else. You'll be fine. The old me would have just gone, oh my gosh, well, I can't believe you're going to do that, and tried to change the subject. The integrated me sees and has compassion for where another is, but also has a love for myself and honors the voice that tells me when I think it's okay to walk away right now, in love. So it all comes back to radical self-responsibility. It's not about shaming others or controlling others. It's about being true to the self that came from Source, who doesn't want you to hide any aspect of yourself, but to let all of those aspects shine true. So the old me might have said to myself, "You led him on. This is your own fault. You led him to feel he was okay to say something like that." Instead, the integrated me said, "This isn't about him and where he is, but this is about you and where you are. And we always have a choice." And this time, I chose myself. And I have to say, it feels good. We don't have to put someone else down to raise ourselves up. We can honor others and ourselves at the same time. Meeting my hero was powerful, but the real gift was in realizing how far I've come in choosing not to abandon myself. Maybe that's the invitation for all of us, to notice those moments when life hands us a chance to reclaim a piece we once buried and to gently bring it back into the light. Because that's what radical responsibility looks like. Honoring who you are fully, even when it's uncomfortable. No part of your true self does Source want you to hide. So if this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear. Where in your life are you reclaiming a part of yourself you once abandoned? Send me a direct message, share this episode, or simply take a quiet moment today to honor who you are. Because every time you refuse to abandon yourself, you're stepping deeper into your star potential. May you walk in wholeness, honoring every part of yourself, and may your light never feel the need to dim. I honor and respect your path. Sending you love, and see you next time. Thank you for tuning into Star Potential with Julie Jo Hughes. If this episode resonates with you, I invite you to take 2 seconds, scroll down and click 5 stars on the rating. It's a fast and easy way to help the show gain exposure and momentum. If you're loving the show, I invite you to leave a quick review about what you love. Reviews are like gold to podcasters, and to show my gratitude, you'll be entered to win my monthly giveaway when you send me a screenshot of your review. I also made you a gift. It's a 9-minute simple gratitude meditation with singing to help you practice mindfulness. Just visit me on Instagram at @TheJulieJo or find the link in the show notes. Thank you for your love and support. Until next time, keep shining your light. And that's a wrap.